space is there, and the moon and the planets are there, and new hopes for knowledge and peace are there. And therefore, as we set sail, we ask God's blessing
I know.
on the most hazardous and dangerous and greatest adventure on which man has ever embarked.
And we are
Back, baby. You know what I'm saying? The Brooks and Banks Show,
What up?
episode 10.
That's right.
And it's the show where everything matters, and
Nothing matters, baby.
so we have a very special show today.
Yeah, we do.
This being the 10th episode. 10 in numerology actually doesn't exist. 10 is 1 plus 0, which is 1, which is the beginning of a new cycle. And as we know, before the beginning of a new cycle, the old cycle has got to die.
That's right. And you know, we also I think this is going to wrap up our year-long journey that we've been doing so far with this podcast. 10 episodes for the first year, not bad.
Not bad, no doubt. Trying to upgrade our equipment, upgrade our everything that we're doing, but you know, in the spirit of the end of this year, and in the spirit of new beginnings,
Yep.
This episode is going to be all about what happens after we die.
This is something that I think people have thought about since the beginning of time, since humans noticed that our life, our physical life on this physical earth, it doesn't last forever. They would see people around them expire, life expire. They would also see life recycle sometimes and recreate.
Yeah.
So it's only inevitable that humans would start to ponder and think about what happens to not only our body, but our consciousness.
Absolutely.
And our spirituality, which some people would separate, I think. You know,
for sure.
So
you know, if we're going to cover, first let's just do a quick overview of like, you know, the big three, I guess.
Yeah.
Which is heaven or hell after you die.
right,
Reincarnation,
right.
or nothing.
A lot of the Western idea of the afterlife comes from the Abrahamic religions like Islam, Judaism, and Christianity.
Right.
The concept of God being in a different realm,
Us being separate from God.
correct?
Right.
Even though they say we are of His image,
Right.
and the idea of some sort of, not necessarily all of them, this is debatable, but some sort of hell or like a negative afterlife.
Right. And I think what's interesting is that, you know, we are now in a day and age where people are really starting to just question these things more and more.
Yeah.
Which is a beautiful thing, I think. And I do have a unique perspective, being psychic, being somewhat of a medium, but also having a near-death experience myself. So I kind of have my own knowings about these kind of things. And what now you know a little bit more about like the Eastern cultures about
Right.
like reincarnation and that kind of stuff.
Right.
Want to speak on that a little bit?
Okay, so I can't say that I know for sure where the first group or people or person came up with this idea, but I know that it did exist before Buddha's time. Buddhism does touch on reincarnation, but the idea did exist before. I think you can find a lot of it in a lot of like Hinduism and that kind of stuff.
And even indigenous tribes, that's another thing.
I'm sure.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
That's whole
The
nother
concept's
thing.
not far-fetched. The
Yeah.
concept's actually, when the more that you get into learning about all these different like religions and thoughts and cultures, the more reincarnation doesn't seem so far-fetched.
Yeah, and you know, I will say that when I first started going through my spiritual awakening and the idea of reincarnation, I was wrapping my head around that, and I kind of have my own theory. Now, I look, as you guys know, like, well, maybe you don't know, but what I believe essentially is that everybody's manifesting their reality
Right.
based on their beliefs, which happens through this life, past lives, many different factors go into that.
Yeah.
So essentially, like, I truly believe that, like, everybody's version is correct in their own universe.
That fits in a
essentially.
little bit with a lot of Buddhist thoughts of dharma and karma. Each of the sects go a little bit differently into it, but I'll loosely explain. Dharma is a little bit more kind of like what you're meant to do, and kind of gets into like the cards that you're handed, the cards that you're dealt. Like for instance, like it's kind of like the grand scheme. It's like, you know, if you're living in a situation that you may or may not like, or doing things that you may or may not like, it may have to do with your karma. I mean, your dharma, sorry, excuse me. Whereas your karma is a little bit more about cause and effect. And they do believe, some of them, again, different sects, different facets of Buddhism, because it's, you know, it's really old and it's gone through different countries. So, but
I've also heard that Dharma is kind of like the way.
yeah, these are vast subjects.
Yeah, I know,
for
right?
sure.
Okay.
But
So,
loosely, you can like describe Dharma as like the way, and the way things are and the way that they're meant to be. Karma could be a little bit more described as cause and effect. So when we think of karma in the West, we more think of it as like, oh, you do something bad's going to happen to you. I've read that it's a little bit more like, it's more that if you do something bad, things are inevitably going to happen that are going to lead to a chain of events that are probably not good things that you and or other people may be living in. Now, when it comes to reincarnation, they do believe that some of that can influence some of your reincarnation.
So I'll touch on just like when my own through self-discovery and going through the rabbit holes in my mind, thinking about reincarnation when I was going through my initial spiritual awakening, is the way I thought of it was like, maybe we start out as an element. Maybe that's kind of like the first essence of the energy of the soul, right?
Right.
And then from there, I have some theories about how it happens through lightning and stuff like that. But basically, after we become aware that we are an element, whether that be fire, earth, air, water, which maybe is why it may be associated with your astrological sign as well. Right. But essentially, once we become aware that we're an element and that we want to know more, that's when we then reincarnate as something like vegetation.
I dig that.
And then after that, after we become aware that we are that, then we reincarnate as like an animal.
Right.
And we keep
again, a lot of us think of reincarnation as like human form, but I've read that a lot of people believe that it is more connected, like how you said, with things like nature. I mean, we have nature, time, human consciousness, those kinds of things, and they're all, I believe, and a lot of other people believe, are interwebbed.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
And so, you know, I don't think we or anyone else quite understands it fully. I think certain people that have had certain spiritual, meditational, and substance awakenings have been able to view or glimpse or get certain connections in that web, and that's what makes them get out of it sometimes and just be like, whoa, there's something. You may not be able to grasp it all, but there is something there. And I think ancient people went through that a lot, and I think would come out of it and try to come up with ways to explain this stuff to people and organize it in a way that people understood what the dharma they were given and living in.
Absolutely.
So that's just like, I mean, roughly touching a little bit of like some of that thought.
Right.
I also believe that there could be something, we talked about this before, where, you know, our souls could be in some sort of bank somewhere that are old, that are new, that are maybe even mixed with other ones, and then some way, shape, or form at some time get put into a human body, or maybe animal bodies or alien bodies or what have you. So sometimes when we're talking about what people think of reincarnation, it could be just more like the soul or souls of different people put together in one person. If we just take spiritual DNA and like our physical DNA, like we are made up of thousands of years of people that have been living and mixing together, and their experiences shared. We already know from animals that live on this earth, like octopus, that DNA memories can be passed on. Yeah. So there's a lot to be said. Maybe reincarnation is simply something like that.
If that's true, and we all come from a common ancestor, and we all come from source, which is the, you know, no matter what you believe, whether you're an atheist, Big Bang, whatever, we all believe that we come from source, right? So like essentially, like if we all come from a common ancestor or source, and if memories can be inherited, then we essentially could all have access to everyone else's lineages.
Correct.
And past lives, what have you.
And when you think along those lines, not even a kumbaya way or a spiritual way or a religious way, if you just think of the purely on a physical 3D level, we all share ancestry.
Oh, yeah.
We are all one. We are all the same people. We all have differences, and we've all split and come up with different stuff. But now we're all back together, baby. It's like this is the time right
absolutely.
now, man, to share. It's not about cultural appropriation. It's not about any of that.
It's about authenticity, baby.
Yeah, man. It's about you. We all need to be getting into all of each other's cultures and stuff. It doesn't mean that you have to submit yourself to rituals and things like that these other cultures do.
Explore all the different philosophies. Explore all the different mystic schools. Explore all the different religions. Explore all the different gurus, whatever it is. And if something that they say resonates with you, then take that as part of your truth for now, which your truth is an ever-evolving truth. Right. And whatever doesn't resonate with you, just leave it.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Yeah.
Maybe it doesn't resonate with you. Maybe it never will. Maybe it'll resonate with somebody else. Leave it for them.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've done a lot of searching into, like, for instance, like Eastern religions, that and all of that was without really subjecting myself into any religious order or like, you know, even forcing myself to get into like rituals and things like that. I mean, there were certain practices that I would do, but they were more, and if any of them were ritual, they were just physical practices like kung fu and stuff like that, and like qigong and things to like take care of yourself and to like inner awareness and outer awareness and meditational stuff. That's a lot of, that's a big area right there. That's a lot of stuff right there. But that's just a general view of life after death, reincarnation, kind of an overview of that. Now, what's interesting though about that is, what about people that have had near-death experiences or death experiences, or people that have like gone into comas and thought that they died and came back, or their heart stopped and everything and they came back, or people like you that have like done DMT and had a death experience, what you perceive to be as dying. Is your take on that? Like coming out of that, like on what the afterlife is?
Well, it's a big question.
Yeah.
So essentially, I believe, okay, so I can tell you from my experience, right, that when I died and I got as close to death as you can come, I saw my silver cord, right, during the experience, which is like kind of like your umbilical cord linked to the physical, right? And I will tell you that as soon as I knew I was dead, it was very scary, but as soon as I knew I was dead, I was at peace, but I also felt bad for everybody that was still living.
Right.
It was because it's such an expansive feeling to be in absolute nothingness, to be part of everything and nothing. And it's like kind of like you have the answers to everything, but you're so secure with those answers that you don't even need to know them.
It's kind of like Gandalf. I think it's Gandalf who said, "Don't pity the dead, pity the living."
Yeah, totally, dude. Absolutely.
Because Gandalf dies, dude. He dies and like comes back, bro.
Absolutely. And I think that, so, and Brooks, you can attest to this. So like, after DMT and going through my spiritual awakening and learning from other gurus, but mostly just self-discovery through meditation.
Yeah, you're really fucking weird now.
But beyond that, weird, the definition of weird, the original definition of weird means someone who is in control of their own destiny.
Wow.
So be weird, homies. So after the DMT, my spiritual awakening, doing a lot of meditative work and really just digging deep into like my own thoughts and theories about things, I came up with this theory that like essentially there are an infinite amount of universes and infinite timelines that we're always moving through. And so every time you die, your consciousness, the version of you, of all these infinite versions of you that exist, the one that the consciousness always chooses is the one that lives. And we've had many near-death experiences, from car accidents to, drugs, everything in between. I'm sure a lot of our viewers have as well. And so I I kind of tripped out on that. I remember telling Brooks about it. But then I found out about 6 months later, after pondering on this, pondering this, one of my friends sent me a YouTube video, and it was all about this theory called quantum immortality. And it's literally exactly what I described from more of a quantum science point of view, with parallel universes and stuff.
Yeah.
And that was really freaky. But essentially, in everyone in your reality exists, but the version of them that you interact with in your reality is a version of them that you created to interact with. So essentially, everybody's you in your reality.
Dude, could you imagine, like, and I think this has happened before in meditation and my meditations and stuff like that, contacting a version of you in a different
We've done
reality.
it. You and I have done it before. When we saw my third eye, it was my future self.
I wonder a lot of times when people encounter what they perceive as ghosts and things like that.
Yeah. There's all types of things,
Now, I will say this also. If we're talking about the concept of heaven and hell, I've been to a Buddhist temple that when we were talking about the concept of heaven and hell, a Buddhist monk there told me with complete conviction, like it was no big deal. He goes, "Oh, we believe that you can be living in hell right now." And so that was my first kind of like what you perceive as reality, what you create in your mind and your physical reality. It's like this dual, your like mental and spiritual like reality, and like this physical reality. And it's like, I feel like the best people who get it all are the ones who like bridge the gap really well.
100%. You have to become one with mind, body, and soul.
And I feel like if you get more into like Buddhist philosophy, they're kind of like about that, like, you know, they're really like that they feel like that's a good tool. It's like like work on that stuff and then like work on this stuff, and then you'll figure out that like, oh, heaven and hell is like here. It's like I can be a demon and become a demon if I don't do these things to like take care of myself, and if I let my dharma like get me all out of whack, and if I get my karma all out of whack. But I can also be like a paragon or like a Buddha or what have you by doing certain practices, whatever it is that they decide to do.
Yeah, and essentially, just to touch back on real quick the quantum immortality theory. In my own theory of it is that, so everyone in your reality is a version of you, right?
Right.
But they also exist in their own reality, and I exist in their reality as a version of them, right? So essentially, every time we die, we did die in some other version.
Yeah.
And we die as a lesson or as some message for maybe our loved ones who did experiences dying. So essentially, what I truly believe is that we never die.
Yeah.
And there's a few levels to that. There's a lot of spiritualists will say like, well, yeah, the consciousness knows no death. And I can tell you for sure that it's absolutely true. But beyond that, I think in my universe, there's no reason for even this body to die. This body will simply transcend to the next dimension.
Right. Transcend. Change. Right.
Yeah.
So a series of books that I always talk about, the Wandering Taoist series about a Taoist monk. He ends up moving to the United States in the 50s, and at some point decides that, you know what, I'm so done with everything, I'm going to like give myself a meditational death, which is a thing that has existed where sages throughout the time would basically transcend, and their physical shell, they would die through basically meditation. I don't know exactly how that worked, by depriving themselves of nutrients, or I don't know, or just mental, they decide to.
I've been
kind of like the Force with, I think that's where Star Wars took a lot of this from.
I've been very close, I believe,
the more you get into this stuff, the more you're like, it's not so bad. And it's
not
like a suicide thing. Or
but I will say that when I got close, I was like, oh, no, I don't want to go.
These people also preach, though, that's like, no, live, experience. When you're ready, transcend. These are not like young men that are doing this.
Everybody's got their own journey, and however they want to do it is totally cool.
And he decides he wants to do it.
Yeah.
He also experiences the silver cord thing that you talked about. Talks about also how he believes that throughout all the different religious studies that this guy went through, he traveled to India, all sorts of different places. He believed that the consciousness was so strong that he knew for a fact that if you willed it to, it could not end.
We are consciousness imagining what it would be like to be me, to be you, to be this table, to be everything. And you know, it's been proven with science, you know, if you zoom in on your hand, you have cells. If you zoom in on the cells, you have DNA. If you zoom in on the DNA, you have atoms. Inside of atoms, there's literally nothing there. There's electrons, protons, and neutrons, but they are so far apart from each other, and it's 99.99999, 13 nines % empty space.
Wow.
So everything in physical reality is a theater of the mind. It's an energetic collapsing of wave into physical reality for us to experience it.
Yeah, I think that's amazing stuff too. And whatever you want to call it, God, creator, manifestation, creation,
Prayer,
universe, Big Bang. I mean, you know,
it's all you.
it really is. And, you know, I think that most of us can agree who, if you're watching this, you're probably an open thinker anyway, that whatever is going on in this life, in the afterlife, in the before life, in the void, in the universe, it's all for a grand reason, or it just is so imperfect that it's perfect.
Yeah.
Every day there are millions of reasons to kill you, the things that can kill you. And we're all here.
The universe is literally doing everything all the time on every level, from the cosmos to your everyday life to the cells in your body, is constantly doing everything in its power to help you survive, to help you have your best life possible.
Yeah.
It really, truly is. Yeah. Like, I mean, just think about it. We're floating around in fucking nothing, like a billion miles an hour. Like, come on, you kidding me?
And it's not to say don't value your life. Value your life. Yeah. Experience it. Use it. But it's like the difference between valuing and enjoying something and coveting it.
Yeah.
You know, it's like the
having
more
to have
you
it,
squeeze to hold on to something, usually just the way the universe works with force, the more it's gonna slip out of your fingers. That's a Star Wars quote.
and I can tell you, you know, from a lot of the psychic and medium work that I've done, I've met with people in the astral realm and in the ethereal realm and what people would kind of call heaven. And here's what I ultimately believe is that, for instance, if you have a loved one that passed on and you meet them in a dream, essentially, or if I meet them in a dream, that's a place where their essence, the version of them that you created in your reality, the essence of them is in a heavenly ethereal realm. But don't get it twisted. There's a version of them that is living in their highest version, their highest timeline, that is still living in a version of Earth,
right? Having
the best life that they've ever had, or on the way to that, right? Because we all are.
Yeah. Always moving.
The best thing in life is always right around the corner.
That's right.
Speaking of that.
Yeah.
Okay. And Chase the other day. Come here. Chase the other day comes into my room. I have a Buddha statue in my room, and Chase comes into my room and he goes, "Hey, it's Buddha."
Yeah.
And my brother and I looked at him and we were like, "How do you know about Buddha?" We said, "How do you know about Buddha?" And what'd you say, Chase?
How do you know about Buddha?
He doesn't know.
I don't know.
What that phone doing?
It's recording you. It's making a video. Say hi.
All right, everybody. Well, listen. Yeah, you.
Hi. All right, guys.
Yeah. You know. Let's go. Yeah. Yo, episode 10 is gonna be alright. Even if we talking about living or die. And we gonna let it all out. And that's the intro, the outro. Let them go. Yeah.
Say bye, Chase.
Say bye, Chase.
Say bye.
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 All right, everybody. Episode 10. The show where everything matters, nothing matters.
That's
Bricks
right.
and Banks show, baby.
See you guys. Say bye,
Love
Chase.
y'all. Peace, God.
Peace.